barring a political miracle, we're likely to see the Barnier government fall, uh, clearly plunging France deeper into political turmoil and economic crisis.
Now, Michel Barnier seems to have been a better Brexit negotiator than he is a Prime Minister of France. He vowed last night that he could survive a no-confidence vote in his government over controversial budget proposals and said France's political chaos was not his fault. Is he right? David Chazan is the Times' correspondent in Paris, who joins us now with the latest. David, hello.
Hello.
Thanks for being with us. Look, give us a timeline on what's going on here. What's the timeline on this vote and when the government might collapse, if indeed it does?
We're expecting what promises to be a rather stormy session of Parliament beginning at 4 p.m. Paris time, 3 in London in the UK this afternoon, with a vote expected by about 3 hours later. So barring a political miracle, we're likely to see the Barnier government fall, clearly plunging France deeper into political turmoil and economic crisis, because the budget that Michel Barnier has tried to force through Parliament without a vote will become defunct, and the budget from the previous year, the current 2024 budget, will then remain in force, which Barnier argues will be catastrophic because it won't allow the government to deal with France's spiralling debt and deficit.
And look, Barnier's not been there long. We're almost in Liz Truss lettuce territory, really. Is it a surprise that this has all fallen apart so quickly?
Not really, no. We've been expecting this to come for some time. Barnier only took office in September, so he's only been at the helm for 3 months. He's the shortest-lived prime minister in recent French history. But until fairly recently, what kept him in power was the tacit support of Marine Le Pen and her National Rally. Now, Marine Le Pen's hard right party has joined left-wing parties, and they all say that they're going to vote no confidence in Barnier's minority government, which means that it is set to fall. And Marine Le Pen says the reason that she's doing this is to protect her mainly working class voters from the effect of an austerity belt-tightening budget with some 60 billion euros in cuts and higher taxes. But French commentators are pointing out that this comes as Marine Le Pen awaits the verdict of a corruption trial that's due in March, that could disqualify her from running in the next presidential election due in 2027. So some people are questioning whether this move isn't aimed at trying to force President Macron to resign. There's no obligation on him to do that just because the Barnier government falls, and then bring forward the date of the next presidential election to before the verdict in her trial. Marine Le Pen herself insists that the two things are completely unrelated.
Wow. Look, given that Macron may be casting around for a new prime minister pretty shortly to replace Barnier, where might he have to look? Is there a chance he could even look at National Rally itself?
I doubt that would be a goer, even possibly just because his own supporters wouldn't put up with it. His own party would be strongly opposed to anything like that. President Macron's anticipated this happening for some time, and we know that he's been making phone calls even while visiting Saudi Arabia this week to try to identify someone in the centre right who'd be able to form a government that might live longer than Barnier's. And one name that people keep mentioning is Sébastien Lecornu, who is currently the defence minister and someone who's close to Macron. But analysts are pointing out there's no reason for a government led by Lecornu to last longer than the Barnier administration.
Wow. David Chazan in Paris, thank you very much indeed. Always a pleasure. This is Hugo Rifkin here on Times Radio.
Now, we anticipated exactly this on Monday, and now the repercussions in France play out. The minority government of the Prime Minister, Michel Barnier, faces near certain defeat today in a no-confidence vote that could dramatically intensify the political crisis in one of the EU's key member states and one of our close allies. If the vote is carried out today, then Barnier's administration, which took office only in September, will be the first in France to be ousted with a motion of no confidence since 1962. Adam Sage has been steering us through this, the Times Paris correspondent who joins me again. Adam, good morning.
Good morning.
Talk us through what happens today.
Well, at about 3:00 this afternoon, there are actually two no confidence motions going before Parliament, but probably only one will be voted on because it will get through. That's one being put down by the left, which the populist right National Rally has said it will back together if all their MPs follow party orders. They will get a majority of Parliament, and that will mean that Michel Barnier's government will be out after just 3 months.
Can you remind us why this happened?
Well, essentially both the left and the populist right have been gunning for the government since it came to office. There were snap parliamentary elections in this summer that ended in a deadlocked parliament. The left, which had the greatest number of MPs, said that it should have been given the right to govern. So it has been trying to topple Michel Barnier's government, conservative centre-right government, ever since it came to power. The populist right, more or less on the same line, but said it would give Michel Barnier time just to see how he did, although gave him very, very, very little time. In precise terms, this has come to a head around the social security budget for next year, which is a budget that in French terms includes some kinds of cutbacks, not massive ones, and it's still a huge budget by comparison with Britain. But anyway, it's one that the left says is cutting back on the healthcare and the pensions of the French people, that the populist right is making similar criticisms about. They both asked for concessions from the government. Now, Michel Barnier made a number of concessions to Marine Le Pen, the leader of the populist right National Rally. For instance, he scrapped a plan to raise electricity taxes. He also scrapped a plan that would have taken some of the medicines that are now free on the healthcare system out of that system, so people would have had to pay for them. But he balked at making one final concession to Marine Le Pen, which was to raise pensions alongside with state pensions along with inflation on the 1st of January. When he did that, she said, right, well, we're now voting the no confidence motion, which is why, unless a lot of MPs defy party orders on the left and the populist right today, Michel Barnier's government will fall.
And then what happens?
Good, very good question. I don't think anyone really knows. Emmanuel Macron spent 2 months over the summer looking for Michel Barnier's government. He's unlikely to want to spend as long again now in a sort of hiatus. I mean, France has been pretty much in a hiatus since June. I think he's probably going to want to try and get someone else in place quite quickly. The trouble is that someone else is going to find themselves in exactly the same position as Michel Barnier. That is to say, in a minority government, unable to get legislation through Parliament unless they can cobble together some kind of coalition with the left, which is hostile to them, which is the populist right, with the populist right, which is also hostile. So we need a miracle worker really to do better than Michel Barnier. Now, Macron is looking at some names. So Macron, actually, he's on a state visit to Saudi Arabia, and he said last night, I can't believe that they're going to do this no confidence motion. But I think that was a bit of bluff, because he is actually looking for Michel Barnier's replacement. There are some names being thrown around, people who are close to him, like Sébastien Lecornu, who is the Armed Forces Minister, like Francois Bayrou, who is the mayor of Pau and the sort of grand old figure of French politics. Both of them are very honourable, creditable people, but the mathematics will be against them in Parliament, just as they've been against Michel Barnier.
There we go. And miracle worker. I mean, some were suggesting that perhaps that could have been Michel Barnier, but it appears not. Adam, thank you so much, the Times Paris correspondent, on what we can expect of this afternoon in France.